Yeah, girl.
Hey girl, hey yeah.
We getting tunes tonight. We getting tunes. We getting tunes
Yeah,
tonight.
every night. Welcome to the Girl She Did That podcast.
Yeah. For the first episode. The first episode. The first episode. Hey. The first episode. The first episode. Hey. All right, well let's get into it. Let's get into it. What you sipping on tonight?
So today I'm sipping on lemonade and tequila.
Ooh, on a Monday.
It's a Saturday,
It's Saturday.
technically.
Okay, is it good? Is it tasty? Is it
It's
plentiful?
delicious. It's
Okay,
just a splash of tequila. We're just,
this is fine.
not doing too much.
Okay, all right,
What are you
all right.
drinking?
I have a little Hennessy with
Mm,
blueberry lemonade and topped it off with some ginger ale.
okay.
Tea.
We know you love some ginger ale.
Always, 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 always. So, what's our purpose of this podcast tonight?
So, the purpose of this podcast tonight is that we are going to talk about balancing relationships and friendships. So, we are going to discuss in our personal experiences or, things that we observed in other people's relationships, how they have been successful and unsuccessful at balancing relationships and friendships, and the importance of having your friendships along with your relationships.
So this is about to be interesting.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
good,
but
good.
before we get into that, we gotta talk about a girl that did that.
Yes, yes, yes. So today we have made Cassie. Girl, she did that
Girl, she
because
did that.
she did that because the way that she showed bravery in showing up for herself, for her family, and she will, always be in my prayers for her bravery. It could have went way south, and for some people on social media, it did kind of go south, but it was really something great to see her, stand up for herself and get what she deserved. And I think that also with Cassie, just showing that like we shouldn't always be aware of victims, but we should
Speak.
also be aware of predators. Like just as much
Mm,
as we can see the signs of, or we're aware of, as far as like, don't wear this, don't say this, to not be a victim.
mm-hmm,
I think that we should be just as aware to be able to identify predators just as quickly, because
mm,
there's been way too many people who've talked about the parties and the stories. They like there's too many celebrities with stories about Diddy and what he's done in the past, and it doesn't make sense why it took this long. And I think that
mm.
we oftentimes blame the people who are involved, but I think that us as society don't take accountability as well.
I agree. I agree. For me, domestic violence is so near and dear to my heart. And someone very close to me, was a victim of domestic violence, and she's no longer with us. But I often think about what she would want or what she would want her story to be,
Mm-hmm.
even though she's not here to tell it. And so I hope that Cassie is now able to share and tell her story the way that
Mm-hmm.
she should, because it's her narrative. And that, she doesn't allow other people to tell her narrative for her.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw the video, so, it's not much to tell, you know what I'm saying?
Not much to leave for interpretation.
But Cassie, we want you to know tonight, girl, you did that. Okay? We are proud of you. We see
Mm-hmm.
you. We
You see,
uplift you, girl. We uplift you, girl.
yes,
Yes. All right. That was good, Bree. That was good. That was good.
yes.
All right. So let's talk about balancing relationships and romantic relationships, excuse me, and
Mm-hmm.
friendships.
Mm-hmm.
How you want to get into it? How you want to get into it? How you want
I
to
think you
start
should go
this?
first. What do you think? You're the one who's married. How do you? Yeah, yeah. We put it out there. You know what I'm saying? You're the one who's married. How do you, balance your friendship and your marriage? Those are two big commitments that you have in in your life. You've been married for what, 2 years now?
2 years in
July. Mm-hmm. Get a hand clap for
July.
that.
Oh,
So 2 years.
being married can sometimes be what?
I wouldn't know.
Toe.
I wouldn't know. I would not know. It's not my lane. So we're gonna take a sip on that.
Take a sip on that. Take a sip on that. No, I tell you, of course, being married is a beautiful union between two people who actually want to do the work to make the relationship
Mm-hmm.
work, which is what I've probably learned the most in the 2 years that we've been married, 4 years almost of being together. But something stood out to me when I first started dating my husband. I ain't gonna put his name out there because
Okay.
he real shy.
Okay. My
He
love.
real shy. He real shy.
My man.
But
My man.
I remember when we first started dating, one of the things you said to me was, our relationship is changing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how I feel about that. That stopped me in my tracks. I was like, boy, what does she mean? It's changing. I don't want it to change. Sad, D. But really, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't because I was getting ready to enter into a new phase of life that I didn't even realize was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm glad that you said that because it brought to my mind that, hey, I still need to balance those meaningful relationships that I do have
Mm-hmm.
along with having this romantic relationship. Because as we know, in our 20s, men, they just kind of come and go. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't really stay. In our 20s, we're trying to figure out what it is that we like in guys or whatever you choose to, you know, ascribe to these days, right? But
Right.
for me in this house, right? In my 20s, I didn't have to do that, right? I got to date who I wanted to date, and my friends was always there, right? But in my 30s, I had to really figure out how am I going to balance and maintain these relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, having my core group of friends, one, and two, having three male best friends, because I think that
Mm-hmm.
changes the dynamic tremendously, right? And
Mm-hmm.
one of those we share,
Mm-hmm.
right, as a best friend, a brother. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to really like my partner has to be okay with those three guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is who about to be in your life. Are you gonna be okay with that?
Correct.
Right? I mean, they're gonna be actively involved because
Mm-hmm.
them three is actively involved.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just show up when they get ready.
Right. It's
They
not
here.
a conversation. It's not a relationship you have in contact with every 6 months to a year.
Oh yeah, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no. So
Right.
I think for me, it was really setting firm boundaries with my partner about this is friend time, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
not time for you to be interrupting me when I'm on the phone, right? Because you want
Mm-hmm.
to key, because he would do that, right? And
Yeah.
there was a moment we was both like, what is happening here?
Mm-hmm.
She want to
Right.
engage, right?
Right.
But we still need to have that sister time where
Mm-hmm.
if I want to talk about you, I can,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not be like, you got to win.
Is that girl? What?
So I will say
See that?
though, like my husband, who
Mm-hmm.
knows that I value my relationships, it's important to me, and he knows that. And so it's nice to be with somebody who can balance. But
Mm-hmm.
everybody don't have that, and I know that. I'm just fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, and I
What's your
think that
thoughts?
yeah, I think that it's important to so let's first of all, let's first address when I said that. Okay?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because you were the first person to be married out of my friends.
Mm.
So you know how I am as far as like you can give, and I might be right, I might be wrong. I mean, this is just my thoughts. But like giving relationship advice as far as like, something you just make a promise to somebody
Mm.
and making vows to somebody and making them a part of your family, making them a part of your life is two different things because the things that you can say, oh no, I'm done, like this is it for me in a relationship, you gotta kind of take a step back and think about it in a marriage.
Yeah.
So, along with that, I think that, you are crossing a bridge into marriage. And so that was just something that I had no experience in. And it wasn't necessarily like leaving you alone,
Right.
but it was more so of like just know that like if I'm a little bit distant, I'm letting you figure out and adjust how to be a wife, how to be a stepmother, these are all the roles that you are going to have to navigate through.
Sure.
And so, and I don't know nothing about it. I can Google something for you, you know, like how do you
But
deal?
you
How
ain't
do
leave
you?
that much space. It was like an hour.
Yeah. I mean,
It was an
know.
hour. A whole
But I
hour.
just didn't want it to be a situation where I just want it to be like upfront. Like our
Yeah.
relationship is going to change. Like there's going to be moments where like, we can't sometimes we can't be on the phone for hours at a time because your husband just came home and y'all haven't seen each other and whatever. You have to acclimate and do all those things, those wifely duties. He has to do his husband duties, whatever it is that you all do in your household. I don't want to hold you up. You know, that's just an example, but I think that one of the good things that you brought up was prioritizing friendships, because I think that oftentimes when people get into relationships, friendships get put to the side,
Yeah.
and friendships only become a priority when something is going on in that particular relationship.
Hmm.
And I think that that's unfair, not only to the friend but also to the person in the relationship. You're doing yourself a disservice by not allowing your friends to just be your friends. Like you have to
Right.
learn. I feel like when you're in a relationship or a marriage, you have to learn how to compartmentalize.
Yeah.
And it's not just the person who's married that has to figure things out. The person who's not in a relationship has to figure things out. And I think that having those conversations when you feel like you're becoming disconnected, or you're not, you feeling like there's a change and it's making you act different. I think that that's when people have to have those conversations like, hey, I feel like, we become distant, or I feel like,
Hmm.
I go through situations and stuff like that and I feel like I can't talk to you because there's no time for me, or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. So I think that when it comes to relationships and friendships, I think that oftentimes people have to be intentional about how they want to see how that relationship grows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
I don't think that sometimes we talk about that enough.
Well, and another thing you brought up that I'm like, let me make sure I remember this is that some people are not mature in their friendships, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you give somebody some feedback and they're not open to it, then it severs the relationship, right? It
Mm-hmm.
starts to cause this breakdown in communication. And so for us though, we've always been we play, we laugh, we
Mm-hmm.
kiki, you know what I'm saying? But there's always been this level of maturity. All
Mm-hmm.
right, so let's call it what it is, because some people would just cut you off and just be done. Because I've
Mm-hmm.
experienced that too. Right,
Mm-hmm.
I've
Clubhouse.
experienced a friendship where they are not the center of your world anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you go into a different atmosphere, whether it's marriage or child or whatever the case may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not about you, you sever that relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so often, and I think about that relationship often, because what would have happened if we would have had that conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The conversation that we had, right? Would that relationship be stronger? Would that relationship end? Still,
Mm-hmm.
right? And honestly, was it probably the best thing? Because sometimes you outgrow people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think we forget that it's okay to outgrow folks. It's okay to say, you know what, I can't continue to take you along this journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think we sometimes, as women, especially Black women, feel like we gotta hold on to everybody.
Correct.
When really we don't,
Yeah.
right?
And I think that,
You bringing me down, you
yeah.
bringing me down. Dude,
But I think that
goodness.
also, along with that, I think that it's an opportunity. Like, you got to remember, you're going into a new chapter. Maybe it's just a cleanse, Like, maybe these are people you should have probably removed a long time ago.
Yep,
But you didn't have the strength to do it, or you didn't have the resources, or you didn't have the knowledge, or you felt like, oh, well, maybe this, or maybe, like, you had all of these doubts of how you felt in the decision that you need to make moving forward. And I think
yeah,
that sometimes people feel like, because of that, because you got married or you had a baby or whatever, they're thinking like, oh, you changed. And it's like, I haven't really changed. It's just that, like, I've been giving you a lot of chances and you haven't really been showing up. Like, you haven't been doing what you need to do in this friendship for you to come to the next stage of my life.
Sure.
for you to enjoy, the other side of, the fence. Like, you are now having to be on this side because you don't have the maturity to move
Right.
forward, you know. And unfortunately, this situation came up and it was just kind of an opportunity to
Yeah.
kind of start over and bring the people who you wanted to bring with you. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a heartbreak. It's just
Right.
it needed to be done
Yeah.
type of situation. But it's just was a situation that was kind of like, I just really feel like it's kind of God ordained. Like, hey, I done told you to get rid of this person so many times. Like, you realize like you can't bring that person with you because it's going to put a strain on your marriage,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
um you don't have the room or the space that you had, because now you have somebody who is a priority, who takes up a lot of space in
Right.
this room. So you can't have two people who are taking just as much space.
Right. Right.
So
I,
yeah,
I
I
agree.
think that happens too.
So I guess it could be very tricky, you know what I'm saying? But
Mm-hmm.
when you have good friendships,
Mm-hmm.
strong friendships, you know what I mean? And a good partner that also values those relationships, it
Mm-hmm.
definitely can work. Right? It definitely can coexist. Right.
So speaking of male friends,
Hmm.
how have you been able to navigate your friendships with the men in your life, along with
Hmm.
navigating your marriage? Because oftentimes men have the idea that, oh, this male friend isn't really your friend, he's just
Sure.
somebody who's waiting for you, or waiting for a vulnerable moment for you to, so basically for him to swoop in and say, "Hey, it was me all along. Like, you should have been with me this whole time," type of situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how
Um,
how have you navigated that?
I think for me, very early on in our relationship, I started talking about those guys and,
Mm-hmm.
my how we became friends, you know what I'm saying? Two of them I grew up with. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, that's my family. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to just leave them to the side. I would never
Mm-hmm.
do that. And honestly, before I got married in, my committed relationship, I was dating someone who did not like one of those gentlemen guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a red flag for me, gentlemen. That was a red flag for me because
Mm-hmm.
I felt like my brother. Those are my brothers, and if
Mm-hmm.
you can't get along with them in this space, then you can't get along with me, right? And ultimately, that relationship ended, and it should have ended long before it did. But we could talk
Mm-hmm.
about that another day, because I got that good ring, you know what I'm saying?
Hey.
But early on, Lyman and I had talked about my relationships with all three of them.
Mm-hmm.
One of them I speak to every single day,
Mm-hmm.
every morning, where we have our 9 or 10 minute chat, on my way to work, and I love the relationship that my husband and that Odell have
Mm-hmm.
because they know that they both have to coexist with each
Mm-hmm.
other because of the love for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you have two men that love you very much, they're gonna make that happen,
For sure.
And one of the things I noticed at our wedding is when Odell gave his toast, I mean, started crying.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I really love Odell because I know he loves you, and I know he wants what's best for you. And I know that it's hard seeing your best friend,
Mm-hmm.
married, the love of your life. I know that's difficult for him.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow Odell was mature enough, right, to say, you know what, that's my sister, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are my brother, and this is what it is. We are a family,
Right.
right? And so Lyman knows that Odell is very important to me,
Mm-hmm.
especially every single. That's how start my day with him, you know
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and as well as the other two, Anshan and Solomon, they are a big part of me, a big part of
Mm-hmm.
who I am, and I'm not going to do anything without, talking to them about it, having
Mm-hmm.
a discussion, getting that male perspective. I think it's a good thing to have males to talk to about certain things, right? To get their
Mm-hmm.
perspective on like, hey, am I tripping? You know,
Mm-hmm.
is it something that I need to think about, from a male's perspective, as far as my husband? Obviously, I won't give them, details about things that's going on, but to
Mm-hmm.
just bounce things off of them is always helpful,
Yeah.
right? But that's why I chose the people that I chose to be at my wedding. I chose them for a reason. I've
Mm-hmm.
chosen to stand next to me to help guide me through this journey because I
Mm-hmm.
never did this before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know nothing about none of this. I don't know nothing about being nobody's wife. One,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know nothing about having no bonus kids. Two,
Right.
right? Because this came as a whole package, right? So
Mm-hmm.
again, I had to remember I was told long ago by somebody very dear to you and I, Miss Tatum, that marriage is a business,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's, yeah, you're gonna love your partner, but you all are a business,
Mm-hmm.
right? You got to know how to communicate with each other. And when there are times where communication is difficult, I will go to my best friends and say, hey, let me tell you this. You tell me, you give me the feedback if I'm tripping. Should
Mm-hmm.
I be using, those 8 positive attitudes instead of thinking here? But like, grateful to have a partner that's open and willing to have those discussions, right? And open to know that these guys are going to be here. Right? They're not going.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think that setting expectations and boundaries when it
Yeah.
comes to male friends, I think that although I can understand from a male perspective how that could
Mm-hmm.
be intimidating
Yeah.
or seen as a threat, I think that, you know, getting to know those friends, those male
Yeah.
friends, and really being able to, identify like what is like how long have y'all been friends, what are some things that y'all talk about, because it is important for us to have a male perspective but
Mm-hmm.
not have someone who is attracted to us who wants to date us,
Right.
because that's the way that you know that the friendship is going to be genuine, because like I don't want to date you today, tomorrow, next year.
Right. Right.
I don't. I like let me know if like you have a secret crush on me, because we might have to discontinue this friendship because I have no intentions on
Right.
moving forward with you in that way.
Yeah.
But I think that, jumping to the conclusion and assuming that, your
Mm-hmm.
male friends is the man that's waiting on you to, pounce on you and be like, yeah, like, or sabotage your relationship with the person that you're with. Like, I think that, really just assessing the situation and seeing like, oh, okay. And really honestly taking the risk, because
Yeah.
you can do all those things may still not go your way, or you might be like, oh, I
Right.
always knew. Life happens, things happen,
Right.
but you can't control people and people can't control you. So you have to just trust that the relationship, the friendship that that person has with that person is actually genuine,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
opinion. So,
I agree.
yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. 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 So, major highlights of this conversation. What do you think they are? What do you think people should take away from it?
I think that people should take away from this conversation that it's important, just as much as it's important for you to have a relationship, it's important for you to have your friends,
Yeah.
and learning how to balance the two, because there is going to come a point where there's going to be a season where you're going to need your friends. I've gone through a breakup, and what if I would have, dropped my friends or dropped my male friends for that person? Now what?
Right.
Now you have to go back and do damage control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unfortunate. Honestly, it's unfortunate to have to go back and be like, I'm sorry, or like, hey, do you want to go out to dinner? You want to go out for drinks? I'm like, I ain't talked to you since last year. It's
Right.
mad.
Right.
Like, I done moved. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know
Right.
nothing.
No, 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 move.
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know what's going on in that person's life. Like, anything could happen, 6 months to a year.
Hmm.
Somebody could have got pregnant. Somebody could have had got married or engaged. Like, you could have missed a lot of things in somebody's life.
Right.
But I think that just taking that, you just remember that you need the people who you have in this season. You gonna need them in the next season,
Hmm.
and just making sure that you are intentional with your friendships and your relationship.
All very good. Very good.
What about you?
And I mean, if I had to go back and do anything different, I don't think I would. I think
Mm-hmm.
I would continue with the assertive communication. I think a lot of people don't know how to communicate, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because we have nowadays these phones and social media. That's how they get things out. But what about having a conversation?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like an in-person conversation. So I think one of the things that I appreciate the most about this particular conversation is encouraging those actual face-to-face conversations
Mm-hmm.
or phone calls, you know, and knowing that it's okay if you have a rift in a relationship that you can come back,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that you can be safe enough to say, you know what, I'm not gonna let this, that, and the third interfere with this particular relationship, friendship, romantic, whatever it is, right? That you can have conversations about it. And I think that's what's most important that I would want our listeners to know most about the particular topic. So as we wrap this up
Yes, ma'am.
on this night, whatever night we decide it is, we definitely want our listeners to follow us on
Yes.
all social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, our YouTube channel. Okay, we are Girl, She Did That podcast,
Yes.
curated by the lovely Bree and Sandy with the four Ys. Okay,
Bree like the cheese.
Bree like the cheese. So we hope that you all are out there. I hope you working. I hope you living. I hope you living your best full life.
Yeah.
Right? We wish you the best as you go forth in your week. And we hope that you trust the process because the process is different for every person.
Amen.
So that, click, click, click,
Cling, cling, cling.
click.
Ooh.
Until next time, episode number 2 coming your way. Coming your way.
Okay.